So we might hear a little bit of barking, and if you see me looking this way, the guardian's right here, but I'm going to talk to the camera for the most part. So I just asked what rules the dogs have, and the guardian said, really, if she's not in the house, not many. So I wanted to talk in this video about the importance of rules and why they matter with dogs, especially when you have more than one dog in the house. Before we start talking about dogs, I want to talk a little bit about human psychology. When we are little children is when rules are introduced to us. And so I'm hanging out in this room. Mom says, you have to stay in this room because I'm a little toddler and I can't be trusted. But my brother's in that room and I want to go play with my brother. Mom's like, no, I need you to stay here so I can watch you. Why are you being mean, Mommy? So we identify the rule itself as negative and enforcing the rule as being mean. And then when it comes to the positives, when it comes to rules, it's Friday night. I don't have school tomorrow. I did all my chores and everything. We're watching the movie. It's past my curfew, but can I stay up late and watch the movie? And Mom's like, sure. And we're like, yay, we celebrate breaking of the rule. And so that's kind of the human psychology that we have of rules because they're introduced to us at a formative age. And the rest of our life, we look at people who enforce rules against us as being mean. The police officer who gave you that ticket was mean. And we interpret getting out of things or breaking rules as a positive. Now, dogs go through life probing because they can't communicate verbally. So they're probing, expecting us to say, that's the limit, that's too far. Now, if I'm driving around that town and I am driving like a madman and I'm blown by police officers and none of them are pulling me over, after a while I'm like, I'm above the law. I can do anything I want. And that can give me a distorted perception of reality. So basically when I'm, for dogs, when they go through life probing, if and nobody ever pushes back, then I start to see myself as having more rank or authority than I probably do. Now, dogs have, basically I tell my clients you have a window of 3 seconds to correct or reward your dog for them to have the ability to make the connection. And so if I cross, let's say there's an area rug here in front of me and I'm not supposed to go on, I'm a new dog you adopted. You don't know if you trust me or not. So I cross the threshold. Now if I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps and you disagree with me, I'm like, oh, she doesn't like me taking 5 steps onto the carpet. Not 1. So the timing of our corrections is really everything. Now, we try to get away with things. Dogs are really probing, waiting and expecting for us to say no. That's half of how they learn. And we usually don't do a good job because, like I said, we think of rules as being a negative. So there's an area rug in front, and I cross the threshold on this side, and the guardian says no. The instant I cross the threshold, I'm like, okay, that didn't work. I move over a little bit, try here, and they disagree. And then here, and here, and here, and here, and here. After like 15 times, people are like, is this dog ever going to figure it out? Well, as a dog, I'm being thorough. Does the boundary go all the way around the carpet? Maybe there's an entry point I just haven't found. So let's say that 15 times in a row I try and the guardian disagrees, and then the 16th time she's on a phone or something happens and I cross the threshold. Now, as in my mind as a dog, I think either this is the area that I do enter or I have to ask 15 times and the 16th time I'll get my way or whatever the number is. And so that confuses me. Let's say then the next time I try 34 times before the guardian gets distracted and I cross the threshold. I'm like, oh, then move the goal. Now I can enter from over there, or I have to ask 36 times. And so we have a tendency to think of the dog being defiant, but really the dog is being thorough. Not just all the way around or the entry points, but also what's their combination. Maybe when the phone's ringing and the TV's on and only one guardian's here, I can cross the threshold. Maybe when the guardian's in the bathroom, I can cross the threshold. So we're going to keep on trying all these permeations. Let's say that 500 times in a row, you're like, you know what, no matter what, every single time you're equal to the task. As a dog, I'm like, well, I'm just going to cross that off my list. I'm never going to try to go on that carpet. She clearly doesn't want me to go on there. And after a week, the guardian's like, you know what, David has been such a good dog. He hasn't tried to go on that carpet once. David, why don't you come over here and go onto the carpet as a reward? Breaking the rule is not a reward. Matter of fact, for dogs, it's like, you just blew my mind. I was never going to try to do it. Now I have to try 501 times? And so it confuses them greatly. Dogs are also almost need to see us working as a blue collar in order to give us credit as working. For dogs, burning energy is like a form of currency. So if I'm yelling at the dog from over here and saying, stop barking, I'm yelling as nasty as I can, it's nowhere near as loud as if I stand up and walk over there. Because now I'm burning the energy to follow through. In the dog world, when something's important, the dog will stop everything and follow through with whatever that thing is and get the results that they're looking for. So Bailey or Mini here is restrained because we just exercised her, but we've got people cleaning the pool and some other things, and she's just really barking at everybody. And probably at this point just doesn't even realize why she's barking. So the exercise will help with that. But the rules will also have a huge impact on that. Now for burning energy, since that's really important. So the dogs are like, we have a tendency to think, look, I'm the human, so you respect me as the authority figure. And dog's like, I don't see it that way. You only have 2 legs. Why would I listen to you? And we have to think, look, I rescued you. We provide you this amazingly beautiful house in Santa Monica to live in. It's air conditioned. There's dog treats. There's dog toys. There's dog food. There's dog beds. There's a pool. And the dog's like, the dogs are like, I didn't see you build this house. I didn't see you hunt that food or make the bed or paint the house or whatever it is. And since the dog doesn't see us doing these things, it doesn't give us credit for acting like a leader. And if a dog doesn't see you as a leader, then listening to you is optional. Let's see if I can work a little bit of magic on this. There we go. I'm not going to give the dog a treat, but a dog's nose controls 60% of their brain, and they can't sniff and bark at the same time. So I'm holding a treat in front of Minnie's mouth to prevent her from barking. You see it worked pretty well. So, all right. So basically, because burning energy is really almost a way of identifying a leader. And in dogs, there's not one true leader. They kind of share leadership. I'm going to be in charge of security. You're in charge of eating. You're in charge of hunting. You're in charge of social interaction. And in my department, I'm the ruler. I go to your department. I have no status. So we want the dogs to see the humans as leaders. Now, I don't use dominance theory. I don't use punishment. What I like to do is create a healthy leader-follower dynamic by helping the guardians demonstrate being a leader through their actions. So the more that we enforce rules consistently, even if the dog doesn't like the rule, the more the dog sees us acting like a leader. And they're not going to say, oh, you're going to take over? Cool. You have to show me that you're taking over through your actions. Sit. Well, I'm definitely not going to, oh, there we go. Someone sat, it was not Minnie. And so the dog that sat, that's Bailey. Monty's the black one. But Bailey sat, and so Bailey got the reward. Minnie didn't get the reward. I call coffee for closers. I pull out one treat. I ask the dog to do something. I have 3 dogs. Whoever does it first gets its reward. Whoever gets it second or third doesn't get anything unless they offer about the same result. 2 dogs come pretty much and they're almost the same sitting down. I would tear the treat in half and give both. But if I ask one dog to come and I give all the dogs a treat to be fair, well, then the other 2 dogs that didn't perform very well, why should I bust my butt? Because I just get, if I can be last, I get the same reward as I do if I'm first. So for her, the first dog to do the thing gets the reward. That creates a motivation to want to do that particular thing. We're going to have to go back to doing this again, huh? All right, so talking about rules, if we are starting enforcing rules on a consistent basis, then the dog sees us acting like a leader. I'm only doing one air quote because I have treats in this hand. All right, so some of the rules that I suggest is, and a lot of my clients don't like some of these rules. I had one woman actually not too far away from here in Santa Monica at the end of the session. She's like, well, I'm glad you made it to the end of the session. I'm like, well, that seems like a weird thing to say. It was just me and you. And she goes, I'm just glad you didn't get kicked out. And I'm like, again, it was just you and me and the Bashad who's kicking me out. She goes, well, the first hour you were here, you just kept on telling me things that I love doing with my dog that I'm not allowed to do. And so I was getting ready to give you the boot. So my job is to give you the fastest path to where you want to go. Some things are deal breakers, so you have to let me know if it is a deal breaker so that I can come up with an alternative solution. Now, for dogs, the higher they sit or stand, the more rank or status they have. Now, we have a painter right back here, and he's ripping some tape, and she's hearing that, and that's what's causing all this barking right now. But the other 2 dogs are not barking, and it's not cascading, which is helping, because we don't have her free. She can't run over there and run around the house, and the more movement they have, the more aroused they get. So by using the leash, I'm mitigating. It's not stopping it, but it's preventing it from really cascading to a bad extent. But I do apologize for the barking. All right, so one of the first rules I usually suggest is not allowing dogs on the furniture, because for dogs, the higher they sit, the more rank or social status they have. The leaders sit in the highest spot. And little Miss Minnie here not only gets on the couch, she likes to get back up here on the couch. So I have more status and rank than anybody on the couch. And as you can hear right now, she's basically throwing a temper tantrum because she disagrees with what they're doing, and she wants to run over and say whatever. Well, just because I want something doesn't mean I get it. Matter of fact, if I get everything I want, that's probably going to create more of this. She's been rehomed a couple times, and a lot of us, when we have a really cute, good-looking dog, we let it do everything at once, well, then we end up with a petulant dog. When we say no, throws a temper tantrum. And that's exactly what she's doing right now. So we will have to pay, I hate to be Catholic, but we're going to have to pay a little bit of a penance and override it. And then she just finally laid down. So she tried. I didn't react. If I shush her, that's validating and rewarding. And for dogs, good attention and bad attention is pretty much the same thing. So I just ignored her. We prevented her from running around. She barked herself out a little bit, and then she laid down. And this is probably also a little bit of a residual from the exercise we did on the stairs. Okay, so one of the first rules I suggest, no furniture for 30 days minimum, or as long as the problem is going on. But all my clients have said, you said 30 days. It takes 30 days to form a new behavior pattern. Dogs kind of are like Newton's third law. They're going to continue doing the same thing until they're acted upon, then they change course. And so until we change things, this behavior is going to continue. So if we take away the furniture, now the dog sees I'm down there and the humans are up here. I see a distinction between the two of us. Now, after 30, 60, 90 days, whatever it is, then we can start inviting the dog up with a one-time pass when the human grants the exception, and it is a reward for good behavior. So if I get invited on the furniture and then I start barking, I now am removed from the furniture. If I am invited on the furniture and I go get a drink of water, when I come back, I would have to get another invitation to get on the couch. Now, to get them off of the couch, is that the question you're going to ask?
No, it's that the room that they have available out there has a couch.
So the Guardian, basically because Monty's the marker, right?
Yes.
Monty likes to mark, and he's had this habit for a while. So whenever we have a dog that marks, we want to kind of cordon off in areas and not give them access to things because they're forming behavior patterns and they're practicing that behavior. So we want to block them from having access so they get out of that habit so we can form that new behavior pattern. Now, there has been a lot of conclusive studies showing that there is a direct correlation with dogs that mark and how high they can sit in the house. And also petting without any structure. We'll talk about that in a different video. So basically, I would get, what we do is something called X mats. The letter X, M-A-T-S. They're about 11 or 12 bucks each. It's basically a little plastic book. You open it up, there are little white plastic spikes on it. So it's a negative reinforcer. But we're not punishing the dog with it. We're just putting these on the cushions of the couch, and the dog will feel uncomfortable, so the dogs will not want to sit there. That blocks for you, so you don't have to manage it for them. So I would get them definitely for in there. Some people use scat mats, which is an electric shock. I don't like using that. I don't really like using those punishment-causing devices. This is more of a static device. And after a while, the dog gets out of the behavior pattern of getting up on the couch, and then it just kind of gets used to being on the dog bed. Now, quick sidebar, this is a longer video, but it's going to be a long video anyways. So what I do to teach them to go on the dog bed, as my camera decides to go up a little bit, or up, down, is basically I take a treat, I toss in the dog bed. When the dog jumps on the dog bed, I have a funny command word that needs to go onto the dog bed, like Jamaica or Cabo or whatever you want to say. And then basically what we do is every time the dog goes, licks it up, we say the command word. And so we throw a treat, the dog goes over and licks it up, we say Jamaica. My camera keeps on wigging out on me a little bit. There we go. And then remember, always say the command word after the treat goes into their mouth. So you keep on doing this for about 10 treats in a row, and just like us, if we go to a restaurant on Montana, we find a $100 bill in the lobby every time we go there. Even if we don't like the food, we're probably going to eat there a lot. So for the dogs, every time I go here, I hear the word Jamaica, and I have a tasty treat in my mouth. That's the first way. Second way is I leave the treat there and I don't say anything and I wait for the dog to discover it on its own and I say the word Jamaica. Third way is I lead the dog over, put it in a sit or lay down position and pop the treat in their mouth and say Jamaica. These are 3 ways to entice or lure the dog to go there. After a while, the dog will start going and checking out on its own, and when it does, then we would throw the treat over there or just say the word Jamaica if we don't happen to have a treat there. This is I usually do this about 10 treats, 3 times a day for about 2 to 3 days, and the dogs pretty much hang out in the dog bed. Now, once you take away the furniture, I like to give the dog bed at the same time. These dogs already have dog beds. Sometimes they use them, sometimes they don't. They're not allowed to have bully sticks on the furniture, so they definitely use them then. But there's more status on the couch. They're going to try to default and go to the couch if they can. And again, Minnie's going up here, which we don't like. So basically, to get the dog off of the dog bed, what I do is I touch their nose with a treat or make sure they're looking at me, and I throw the treat on the ground. When the dog goes on the ground and licks it up, I say the word off. I don't like to say the word down because some people say down to mean lay down. And then once the dog gets off, then I would put the X mats on the couch so the dog can't get back up. And if I go to the bathroom, I just pull it out from under the couch, put it in my space, go to the bathroom, or get a drink of water, come back and put it back. So that blocks them from doing that. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the first rule, and it's the one that most people don't like giving up. And like I said, it's not forever. And you can always go down to the dog's level and lay with the dogs at their level if you want to cuddle with them. They just can't come up to ours. All right, the next rule that I usually suggest...
Wait, I have one
please.
question about
Okay.
this. So the dogs sleep with me in my bed.
Okay,
how
so
do you deal with
sleeping
that?
is that's a more prestigious position. So I would, some people are unwilling to give that up. And if that's the case, then I always say that sleeping in the bed should be only with an invitation. So I get, you go in there, you get your PJs, you read in bed, and then you tell them, I want you to sleep here or here. Are they good sleepers? They kind of sleep wherever they want on the bed.
They sleep wherever they want.
Okay, so I would dictate, this is my bed, I'm sharing it with you. If you'd like to be on the bed, this section is for you. If you don't like that, there's a whole lot of floor that you can enjoy yourself with. So these dogs are, the rescue dogs, and the guardian loves them and wants to make them feel happy. But again, a child that is given everything it wants, after a while becomes a petulant child that doesn't listen. And Monty is marking, they're all are barkers. And so that has contributed, I think, a lot of my clients, when I ask them what rules the dogs have, turns out they don't have any rules. And then they see you as a peer, then listening to is optional. And you can get away with it with one dog, sometimes with two. You have more than two dogs, you can't get away with it. You have to have, otherwise they're going to fight with each other and try to break the rules first to be the first one to do that. Another rule I have is I make dogs sit before I let them in or out of a door. Now these dogs have a dog door, but if they go out this door to go to the backyard, go to the door, say sit once. If they don't sit within 3 seconds, walk away. Sit down, ask your Google, Alexa, Siri, or whatever it is for a 60-second timer. After 1 minute, unless they're barking at you, if they bark at you, wait for them to stop barking. After 1 minute, go back to the door and tell them, and don't ask, sit. If they don't sit this time within 3 seconds, I walk away for 2 minutes. Next time I'll walk away for 4 minutes, and then 8 minutes. I keep doubling the length of time until when I go to the door, they sit down. One of the dogs likes to go and scratch at the door in the bedroom to get out, and I talked to the guardian off camera, a solution for that. But if we condition the dogs that scratching at the door doesn't work, but as soon as I sit, the door gets opened, well, then I go sit at the door as my way of saying I'd like to go outside. And so it's also more subordinate for a dog to sit. So if we condition them and help them practice that, and it's also I have to listen to the human, I have to comply with the human in order to get and when I do comply with the human, I get a reward. So there's a trifecta of nice positive things that happen for that.
2 questions.
Okay.
3 dogs.
Uh-huh.
What if 2 of them sit, 1 doesn't?
Okay, so if you have multiple dogs and one of them complies, then that dog gets rewarded. And so I would let that dog out and hold the collars of the other 2 dogs. And I mean, kind of like there's a Leo DiCaprio movie where like he escapes and runs back home and he's looking in the window and he sees his stepsister and his mother and his stepfather in the house celebrating Christmas. He's like cold and shivering. He's looking, look how beautiful that is. That's kind of the experience with the dog. Look, that dog's out there running around having a good time. Why didn't I sit down? Darn it. Well, next time the dog, I give the opportunity. But if we repeat it over and over again, we're just saying that we're not really an authority figure. We'll just keep on repeating it. We don't really mean it. So now we're not punishing the dog, but we're providing a carrot. If you do what I want, you get a reward. If you don't do what I want, nothing happens. I don't care. I got other things to do. And now if they are scratching the door, make sure you put plexiglass or something at that door, because if they scratch and you look at it, oh, it worked, scratch more. And so a lot of us actually train our dogs to misbehave. The dog comes to us and sits down and we ignore it. It goes and chooses the remote control, we go chase it. Good attention, bad attention is pretty much the same thing. So I'll talk in a different video about how we can help the dog motivate the dogs to want to offer those good behaviors to get attention as opposed to bad behaviors. But going back to rules, another rule that I have is I don't let the dogs within 7 feet of me when I'm eating. For dogs to be within 7 feet of anybody who has a high value item is a way of challenging for that. And if they're within that 7 feet and you don't disagree, that's as good as agreeing. So make sure that you disagree. Another rule that I have is I don't let them in the kitchen when I'm cooking food or anybody's cooking food. And so I don't have a gate. They just are not allowed to cross the threshold. By helping the dog practice self-restraint in that capacity, it can help them practice self-restraint of barking at the door or charging at the door or jumping up on people or whatever it is. I look for analogs to help dogs practice behaviors, kind of like Mr. Miyagi. Wax on. You go, well, he didn't realize he was showing him a defensive boot. Same sort of thing for the dogs.
You're going to teach me how to do those.
I'm going to teach you, yes, absolutely. Okay. And and actually for the food, what I do is I do a warm-up. I help the dogs practice. I jokingly say there's no entrapment laws for dogs, so I set them up in situations where I have time to pay attention. So for the kitchen, what I do is I go in the kitchen and I microwave some roast beef or bacon or some sort of meat that's going to smell. Now, first I make them leave the room, and then I walk backwards, and I'll show you how to do this later. But then I microwave it and I put it on the counter, and then I simulate cooking. And as soon as that dog tries to cross the threshold, I disagree. I'm not actually cooking. When I'm cooking, I'm distracted. I'm thinking about the ingredients and all the other things I got to do. When the dog crosses the threshold, I don't see it right away. I don't see it in that 3-second window. And so the dog is confused as to why I'm disagreeing. Well, when I fake the cooking, where I cook, and then I bang pots and pans around, open their fridge. It looks like I'm cooking. It smells like I'm cooking. They try to come in, but man, he sees me instantly. And once the dog sits or lies down beyond the border, then I would actually start my actual cooking. Now, when you have multiple dogs like we have here, it's going to be really hard. You can't really do it with 3 dogs. So what I would do is have maybe a dog walker come and walk 2 dogs, and then practice with 1 dog. So we practice with that 1 dog and help that dog practice that skill set. And when that dog has it, then we practice with the next dog, and then the next dog. And then once all the dogs know by themselves what to do, we bring the best 2 dogs together and have them practice together. Then we bring in the 3rd dog. So we make it easier for us. All of us as humans, we try to train all 3 dogs simultaneously. You'll never get anywhere. It's just going to be a lot faster, more efficient. Okay, so another rule is dogs eat in the order of rank. It is the most important activity for them. Do you free feed them, or they have food all the time, or
they eat twice quickly. A day, okay. And they eat it when I give it to them.
Do you eat before you feed them?
Do what?
Do you eat before you feed them? Yeah.
No.
So dogs eat in the order of their rank. So if we have multiple dogs, we want to feed them one at a time if you're looking to add structure, and whoever's feeding them, the human, should eat something first. Because otherwise, why would I listen to you? You don't have any eating privileges for the most important thing in life, eating. You have no status. So what I do, if I don't want to eat breakfast, I eat a chip or cracker in 5 or more bites with all the dogs behind the boundary of wherever it is. The food is in the bowl waiting for them, and they're not allowed to come in. Again, developing more self-control. Then I let the dogs come in one at a time and eat. And while that dog's eating, the other dogs are not allowed to go intimidate them or try to, because that's what they do. I'm going to wolf down my food real quick and then go stand next to you and try to intimidate you, and maybe we can take your food. So I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to demonstrate I'm a leader by creating a structured environment and controlling the environment. I have 4 dogs, and I actually can say butts, butts, butts. They go, 4 of them sit their butts in the corner. I put 4 bowls of food down, and I leave the room. And then I yell the first dog's word is chow. And then he goes and eats, and the other 3 dogs sit and wait. Now, it took practice to get there, and we'll talk about it. But we'll get there. All right, well, this is a really long video, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. But look for ways to incorporate rules and help enforce them so your dog sees you acting like a leader.